I have a panel here today, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to do an interview for my class that I'm doing at Trinity College. And everyone's laughing at me now because I'm trying to sound official, but it's good. I have 3 awesome people here today that are around kind of the tech marketing area. So I am going to ask them some very difficult questions about the different parts of my class. So before I introduce everyone, I'll just explain the class a little bit. It's a pretty cool class that I took at Trinity, part of my marketing master's degree, and it was all focused about technology, science, and how that relates to marketing. So what we did in every class, we almost just learned about a new type of technology and how it's advancing into the future. So some of the examples was like gene editing and how that became more prominent, and then kind of flipping that and how that affects consumers. So that was kind of the general gist and just an example of what we talked about. But really, the whole theme is just technology and how it's developing into the future and how that's going to affect the human race. So now I will introduce to you these wonderful people. First, we have Kelsey. She is a digital content marketing planner for Pacatan's Craft Center. That is here in Ohio. We also have Emily, who is a registered nurse with a bachelor's in science of nursing at Ohio Health Doctors Hospital on the post-surgical and orthopedic unit. And then we have good old Joe Walsh. He's EMT, basic studying to become a physician assistant. So, thank you all for joining me on this wonderful day. Now,
for you.
I know, I appreciate it. So, first, I've already explained kind of the class and how this kind of thing is going to roll. So, I just have some questions to ask you guys. First, super general, I've mentioned a bit about your background and what you guys do as like kind of your job title, but would you mind explaining a little more about the career path you chose and what you do in your profession? Kelsey, you're first.
Hello, my name is Kelsey. So right now I am the digital content marketing planner for Pacatan's Craft Centers. We currently have 34 stores in 4 states, so it's a decently sized corporation. So I control all of the online content for Pacatan's. That includes their website, all their blogging, and all of their social media.
Emily, what's up?
Well, I'm a registered nurse at Doctors West here in Columbus. I work on a post-surgical orthopedic unit, so we get a lot of people who have had hip surgeries or full knee recovery, as well as a lot of overflow, so a lot of cancer patients and addicts.
Awesome. So, Emily, medical, we have Kelsey, marketing, and now Joe. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself, good sir?
Well, right around when I graduated from Walsh, I worked for a few years when I was at school and then continuing after I graduated for the Department of Transportation in their environmental division. And I, after doing that for a while, I kind of realized that the total just desk job was not working out for me, and environmental science in general, it just didn't really seem like it was really worth doing what I was doing, because if you wanted to destroy a wetland, you would just fill out a few more papers, and it just seemed like, well, what the heck is the point of me even being here if they're just going to destroy it anyway? So I figured I would go and do the other thing I can do with my degree, and because most of my family in some way or shape is involved in medicine, so I said, well, I'll just do medicine. So I figured I would study to become a physician assistant, which is a hybrid position between a nurse practitioner and a doctor. And so to accomplish that, I had to go back to school a few times.
Same boat. That's all good. I'm in the same boat.
And I've become an EMT basic with American Medical Response to get some experience in the field.
Sweet. So another medical, as you can clearly see, and that's beautiful because you just led into the next question of what I was going to ask. So that was going to be why and what did you choose to study, which you hit on that. So now I'm going to flip it over to Emily first. And why did you choose to study nursing/science?
Okay, well, when I was 4, actually, I was like always pretending to be a nurse, and I jokingly said, I'm going to be a nurse when I'm older. And then when I was 12, my aunt had a ton of heart problems and had actually 41 different surgeries done, and they told her she had 6 months to live. And so I was with my mom every single day in the hospital visiting her, and it kind of just made me really know that that's what I wanted to do. well, then I changed my mind a few times and wanted to be a fetal cardiac surgeon, and then I wanted to be a thoracic surgeon, and then I looked into school, and it was just way too much money and way too much time, and I did a couple internships and realized, like, wow, the doctors don't actually get to be with the people very much, and the people are the reason why I wanted to be in healthcare. So I went with nursing because it kind of puts the two together, like my passion for people and my love for like the science of medicine, both at the same time. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. One really cool thing, though, is now my aunt celebrates her 45th birthday on Friday, and so that's really awesome. It's been 14 years, and they told her she had 6 months, so
That's really sweet.
cool journey.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
That's cool that you say you really are into the people, and that's interesting because we're going to be talking about that in a little bit too.
Awesome.
All right, Kelsey, can you tell me a little bit more about why you wanted to get into marketing?
I've always been like a huge people person and very creative, so I knew I always wanted to do something in business. And when I didn't do well in math my whole life, I was like, okay, well, accounting is out, finance is out, and then I worked for Fridays in high school, and I really enjoyed like our marketing, and I had a passion for just getting people in the door and like figuring out reasons why people aren't coming, and that's basically what marketing is. It's our job to get people to want to do something. So I created like a whole marketing plan for Fridays, and I would like always like wanted to send it to like their corporate, but I never like had the guts to do that. So then I thought like, wow, this is something that I would love to do, and it just became like a huge passion of mine. I'm obsessed with it. I love everything about marketing, and yeah, it's a homey feeling for me.
Awesome. I like it. So that also flips us into the next question, and this is going to start seeing more tech kind of questions focused on the classes I kind of mentioned. So the first one is just kind of a general thing about technology, and I'll flip to Joe quickly. How is tech used in your profession?
Well, as basically for EMTs and paramedics, at least with American Medical Response, technology made in what I do every day, it's pretty much manifests itself as the electronic dispatching system, whereas the old method would be to have the base where you park your ambulance at night, that there was a person who'd sit there all day on a radio system. So somebody would call that base from a hospital saying, hey, we need a pickup, and then the person would get on the radio your unit and say, hey, get over here. But now we have an electronic dispatch system where we use cell phones, and there's a center in St. Louis, Missouri, that a hospital would then call that station, and then the people in St. Louis would then send you a message onto that phone, which will tell you where to go and when you're expected and all that stuff. And two, we use a little tablet to put in the report for that run and all their information and stuff like that.
So a lot of tech usage. So another just kind of quick question on the end of that. Would you think that your job or your area or your field would be able to exist as you kind of know it without technology?
Yeah, I think it would very easily. I think it would more easily, at least at this point, exist without it than it does with it, especially just for like the electronic dispatch, and the reports on the computers can be kind of finicky, especially when you're trying to use a touch screen when you're bouncing around in the back of an ambulance. And the one main problem they've been having is because it's outsourced to another state, and sometimes the electronic transfer can take a little bit longer or get caught somewhere in the middle. So we'll sit right outside of a hospital or within 5 minutes of a hospital, and before they would call local, and then they would radio us, and we'd be there within, at most 15 minutes.
Sure.
But now it can happen to where the hospital put in a call, and we won't get there for a half hour to an hour because we never got the message until, a half hour goes by, and that's suddenly when we get the message, and then we'll get yelled at because we weren't there fast enough.
So tech is causing some potential problems.
Yeah.
So you think that it could be better with less tech?
I think that in our modern time, a lot of things are unnecessarily tech. I don't know.
Yeah.
Made
okay.
electronic.
Cool.
Like trying to fix the wheel if it's not broken, kind of deal.
Okay, so you have a similar experience as Emily too then. So
Yeah.
you're kind of in the same science medical field. So how do you see tech used?
I definitely agree with Joe in a certain aspect. At least like in the transport area of it, we do run into a lot of problems with that electrical record and the calling on all that, where sometimes we have patients that are ready to go home at 11 o'clock in the morning and they don't get the call until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So then their family is sitting here like, hey, what's going on? So in that aspect, definitely technology needs to be improved if it's going to be used. However, with my experience in the hospital, I think that right now the technology is at a place where like it's working. There are things that definitely need to be improved with medication administration and contacting physicians and such like that, because there are things where, you know, in the electronic chart it'll say, hey, go to this form to find this form, and then you can call the doctor from that form that you find after 7 other times. And then sometimes it'll say, oh, this form isn't recognized. Find the paper form. And you have to go to a set of file drawers and dig through a bunch of stuff and find the old papers because they haven't transferred that to electronic yet. So we're kind of just in like a limbo mode.
That's tough.
With half of it in paper and half of it in technology. So it's kind of questionable right now how technology is going to advance for us, because we really are trying really hard, but we don't have any like set in stone progress, I guess.
That's interesting. And we're kind of at like a time frame where we're just seeing rapid technological advancement, so we don't really know how we're going to utilize it to the best to all the random things that we do in life. So that's cool. Now we're going to try to change pace a little bit. We're going to flip it over to the marketer. How do you see technology used in your profession?
Well, I mean, I'm sure as everybody knows, like in the class knows that marketing is going digitally now. Traditional marketing really doesn't exist a whole lot anymore. And about 5 years ago, my job didn't exist at all. Digital marketing is a cheap, easy way to reach a huge audience. So it is definitely a good thing in some instances. But also, everybody still likes the traditional route as well. But when it comes to digital marketing, you definitely can reach a larger audience for a whole lot cheaper. And I feel like in the future, people are going to stop any kind of traditional marketing, like any type of paper ads. So like everything my organization does and my department does traditionally, I have to transfer it to digital. So for instance, we have sale flyers that get printed, like everything that gets printed, I have to somehow turn it digitally as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Sticking with Kelsey, do you think that tech is beneficial to your job in the field that you do?
Yes. It is definitely helpful to, obviously it's quick, so you have to get a message out extremely fast. That's the best way to do it, because you don't have to wait for printers to print something. You don't have to wait for people to come to your store to find out a message. That's a great way to just get a quick, easy message out right away. But it's also negative as well, because I feel that since I deal with like Facebook, I deal with a lot of complaints, and people are more apt to complain on a computer rather than face-to-face, so then it also brings a lot of negative connotation to your business as well. So there's like pluses and minuses obviously for anything, but I think that we need to not jump right ahead into everything digitally. I think we need to kind of like slow the reins a little bit.
Okay, cool. I'm going to bounce back over to Joe, since you kind of said that tech has caused problems for you, but do you think technology is beneficial in your field at all?
Yeah, I think it's extremely beneficial, especially for like tracking stuff. I mean, I'm sure they do the electronic record in the for some reason. If corporate, maybe it's easier to put them in the system and keep track of the billing and stuff. But it'd be nice if they like told us and like, hey, this is why we're doing it, instead of just we're doing it, get used to it kind of thing. I kind of forgot the question. Well, it definitely helps to keep track of what does work and what doesn't work. Before, medicine was very, well, I've always done this way and it seems to work, so we're going to keep doing this procedure. But now you can go back into all these different runs and look at what procedures were done, and then you can say definitively, well, this worked and this didn't work. So it's much more scientifically finding out what procedures do and do not work.
That's cool. So it's good. I can absolutely see that. Same question to you, Emily. Beneficial? Good for your field?
Yeah. think it's a lot more concise, especially with medications and charting on patients, rather than having to handwrite every single thing that's going on. It's a lot of our charting is separated into like body systems and marking like what's wrong if there's anything abnormal. Otherwise, it's like, okay, you don't have to chart. Look, they're fine. So I don't know. It's more efficient, I guess, because you're not going through saying, yes, this is normal, yes, this is normal, yes, this is normal. You're just denoting specific things that are abnormal and how you're going to help that or, I guess, intervene and talk to the doctors and all of that stuff. And then with medications especially, technology has been really helpful. We now have special computer systems that actually dispense the medications to us, and they tell you each patient and what medication is due at what time, and you can actually, like, instead of having to type in what medication you need, you can simply press their name and the time, and it pops up and says, these 5 meds are due. Do you want to take them out now? And it's like, wow, that is so much nicer than having to go over to this room and that box and sort out all this stuff. And I don't know, it's really helped in that piece, as well as identifying who the patients are with the barcodes and scanning systems and all kinds of things like that.
That's cool. That's good. Okay. So we can see that tech is beneficial in certain ways when you use it the right way. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to stick with you, Emily. I have another question kind of along this train of thinking. So how do you see your area/profession developing as new technology develops and implements to it? So this is, kind of just future thinking, general opinion kind of questions is just how you see it projecting into the future. And if you needed to just take some time to think about it, go for it. That's cool. No worries.
A big thing that we're focusing on is putting the patient first. And so I think that's something that's really changing with the technology, is that now we have computers in every single person's room. We have a timed call light system. So then, if a patient puts on their call light and it takes you more than 30 seconds to get to them, that's recorded. And it goes into the computer system, and they go through all of that technology, and they analyze, like, what can we do to better that response time, go into staffing, administration, all of that stuff. But also having the computers in everybody's room is really helpful because it puts the patient first, but you can also do your documentation. So you're kind of doing everything at once, and that's how technology is slowly making its way into that daily care, I guess. Okay. And we also have something that Ohio Health just started is really cool. It's called My Chart, and it's actually an online link that each patient gets when they come to the hospital, and they can have access to all of their medical records. They can message back and forth with their physicians and their nurses, see all of their diagnostics, their bills, everything like that, all online, at home, on your tablet, on your smartphone, anything. So that's really neat because it keeps you connected.
Cool. That's awesome. And I'm going to keep hitting you with the questions.
Okay.
So I know that it's tough to project, especially with the medical field, because it can go in so many different ways and so detailed. Mm-hmm. But with the nursing profession and kind of looking into the future of tech, do you think that nurses could eventually be replaced by potential technology advancements that require it, or robots?
No.
What do you think? No? Not at all?
Never.
Nice.
Exactly. The thing that I think is so special about nursing is that we are taught to feel what our patients are feeling, and not only be there to listen to them, but be that shoulder to cry on, or sit in there with them and their family for 45 minutes, an hour, however long they need, and just be there. And technology can't replace the
human interaction.
The human interaction, exactly.
Yeah.
There's
empathy, all that,
That would be horrible to have a loved one go into the hospital and somebody say, hey, your grandma's going to die in 3 days, but this robot's going to take care of her. We're going to be fine. It's all going to work out.
Or a robot telling her that even. That's tough.
Yeah,
that's tough.
That's not something that is comforting. And when you are looking for a a positive healthcare environment, you want that comfort.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a tough field to handle for sure. Joe, I'm going to flip it over to you again, sir. How do you see your area of profession developing as technology develops as well into the future?
I mean, I could see you getting more advanced equipment on the ambulances, but until they have self-driving ambulances,
Right.
robots that can lift the patient and put them into the ambulance, I think it'd be kind of hard. I know the one thing they always tell us is treat the patient, not the numbers.
That's cool.
And because, I mean, procedure states, you know, like, I mean, it's obvious, like the rules are if you have a patient with, you know, like, what is it now, like a blood pressure of 120 over 80, even if it's at 120, oh, it's pre-hypertension, and you have to do all this stuff for it. And we routinely get patients with very high blood pressures that act totally normal. And so that basically means, like, you know, normally if they have a 200 over something blood pressure, oh, you know, you have to take them to the hospital, do all this stuff, give them a bunch of medication to get it down. But a lot of times these people just kind of run high and they just live like that no matter what. And it doesn't affect them in any adverse way. So if you would have, say, you know, like a Star Wars type medical droid,
Right.
that it'd be kind of, I mean, I'm sure eventually they'll be able to program that kind of discretion, but right now we don't really have the ability to program that kind of discretion to, like, okay, well, these are bad looking numbers, but the patient looks fine, so I'm not going to worry about it.
You got to make that decision, and
Yeah.
robot may not be able to do that right away. Yeah, cool.
I don't really know. It's kind of a, I mean, eventually if I'm a PA, I could see technology getting into that. I mean, the hospitals already have a lot better technology than ambulances do.
Right, of course.
Just because they can have bigger machines.
Yeah, stationary.
Do fancier things, and ambulances still need equipment that, you know, in the hospitals it may be very advanced equipment, but it's not necessarily rugged.
Yeah.
So
You got to be rugged, mobile,
you need
ready to rock and
something,
roll.
you know,
quick.
sometimes the older machines that you can throw across the room and it'll still work.
Yeah, right. That's cool. All right, Kelsey, I'm going to flip it over to you with a different question here. So we were talking a little bit before we started the interview about how you're, like, always connected, especially managing social media all the time. That's a difficult task. So what do you think some of the side effects of always being connected, always being ready with technology and needing to respond?
Well, I have been in my role for about 6 months now, and I can honestly tell you that my anxiety has gone through the roof. Just being connected constantly, like, I'm the only one that mans all of our social media, so just constantly having to answer customers' questions, having correct language, knowing that anybody can see my work is very stressful, and just having to respond on time, deal with people and their, like, complaints, and just knowing how to do that correctly. Like, I've had to deal with people already saying that I'm not doing my job correctly, or people that aren't even in my department that have no idea about social media. Like, I have to deal with that constantly. So it's definitely a very fun but stressful. So just learning customer service and just trying to correctly do my job is probably the toughest part, but it's also awesome as well because I single-handedly can change somebody's opinion about our company. So if somebody had, like, a negative experience in their stores and then they complain about it on our Facebook page, for instance, I have the opportunity to change that person's opinion and make our brand sound a whole lot better and develop a relationship with that person. Like, I've done that in the past where people had a horrible time with our stores, or they don't like something that we do, and then I work with them, I talk with them on the phone, I figure out how to contact them, and then they're like, wow, Packetans is awesome, thank you for changing my outlook on life. Or, like, we have a proposal in one of our stores, and
That's cute.
I know, it was awesome. First of all, like, who would propose in a craft store, first of all? But hey, so we, like, contact that person, and we heard their story, and we're gonna, like, help them out with their wedding. So it's awesome, like, little
That's
stuff
cool.
like that. So it makes up for the negative parts, but it's definitely adds a lot of anxiety to my life.
Cool. All right, I'm going to stick with you. Another question. So there are a lot of different trends going on in marketing now, like content marketing is a big thing. Automation is starting to step up with the different technological advancements and just softwares. What do you think is one thing in marketing, whether it's like automation or the content marketing or email marketing, that you think is going to be big that will influence the marketing profession in the future?
I think animation and video streaming. Video is a huge thing nowadays, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen like the whole Amazon thing, how to change the grocery shopping,
Right.
Which is really interesting. But I definitely think that the whole like with Google and Apple and all the different animations that they're creating, and I feel what's that word called when a hieroglyphic, like when somebody like pops up. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Oh, hologram.
A hologram.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was like, it starts with an H.
Hieroglyphic close
right?
enough.
Like what? What is it called? I feel like even that could be the future of marketing. Like some like things like that, like a hologram.
More interactive. Yeah.
Something more
Right.
interactive like
Right.
that. I don't necessarily like that. I think we need to take a step back and go more traditional route still, because social media is awesome, but it also creates a lot of negative problems as well. But I definitely think that automation and videoing is
That's cool.
droning.
Yeah.
Droning a word.
Maybe the act of droning, I don't know. Yeah, but drones, yeah, they're getting big too. But yeah, tech is advancing so quickly. It's tough to kind of keep up and manage it as well.
Drone ambulance transport.
Hey, yeah, that could be possible, 100%. All right, so I'm going to attempt to explain something here. It was a big theme in our class. It's called the post-human era. And basically, kind of in a summary of what that is combining the human and technology together. So getting to a point in time where it's tough to distinguish if a human is really a human, if like it's technology. So think kind of like a cyborg. So really merging the human with technology. So really basically a cyborg using different type of technological or science advancements to enhance your brain functioning, to maybe make designer babies and things like that. So I know these are very interesting and highly controversial topics, so they're perfect for an interview, of course. So the question that I want to trail that with is, how do you think the future of consumers or patients will look like with this rapid development of that type of a technology? So with people being integrated so much more with technology now. So how do you think that will like influence your field or push for different interactions? Go for it. Yeah, go for it, Emily.
So I think it's going to be a really positive thing, but also have a couple of little negatives. So we like to, as I was saying before, we like to focus on the patient and integrate technology in to give them that positive outlook, but at the same time, with it so rapidly increasing, it might seem to patients and families as if we don't want them there and we're just focused on the task and getting them in and getting them out and not really caring. Where from our point of view as the healthcare team, we are really caring, but it's just like something we have to do with the technology. You know, we're kind of being pushed into it for a lot of the older nurses.
Yeah.
I'm a new nurse, so I'm used to the technology. But for a lot of the older nurses that I work with that have been there 20 plus years, it is extremely hard for them to get used to using the computers and using the medication systems and all of that stuff, because they're so used to paper charting. And, I can sit down with the patient for 2 or 3 hours and just write down all this stuff. It's fine. No, we can't do that. We don't have time for it, all of this stuff, because of the technology. And that's another thing. They've also increased how many patients you can have because of the technology, because technology improves the timeliness and all that stuff, or it is, quote, said to improve the timeliness. It's not actually, but, so it's kind of like a mixture of positive and negative things with how rapidly it's increasing.
That makes sense. That's cool. And actually, you mentioned one thing that was another theme in our class, being actually pushed into using technology. You don't really have the option anymore because rapid advancement. So that's pretty cool that you actually mentioned that without me even saying it. That's pretty wild. Okay, cool. Kelsey, I'm going to bounce over to you. So you have kind of a little different outlook on all of this, because technology used for marketing is going to be a little bit different. So think of like perhaps like the Google Glass, like if you have glasses on you all the time that get real-time updates, so maybe marketing could be influenced that way. But what do you think in like the post-human era where technology is almost integrated into the human, what do you think marketing will look like?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is tough.
It's a really
Different way of
one.
thinking.
Yeah. I really don't know.
Yeah. That's tough.
Can I
It's
get
tough.
back to you?
Yeah, no, go ahead. You think about it. Joe, I'm going to flip it over to you. In the post-human kind of era, what do you think kind of the PA/EMT world is going to look like?
Well, you probably need an engineering degree too.
Good point. The different education types, yeah.
I don't know if people see. I think like the cyborg kind of thing. Like we have a lot of people like injured, and especially Iraq and Afghanistan, where they get their. I'm sure the Irish probably have their fair share of Middle Eastern conflicts where people get their arms, legs blown off, and I could totally see like in the future like the advancement is creating limbs like in the iRobot movie. Will
Yeah,
Smith
generating them
where
like
it's
that. Yeah.
But I can't see that many people actually, like, people hate getting surgery anyway.
Right.
I couldn't imagine that many people would be like, I want a new leg or new arms just for the hell of it. Like, I don't know. I think it's just going to be more things like they're coming out with like a wristband that projects your phone screen on your wrist, which is pretty cool. I think it's just going to be more of like an interconnectivity of people kind of deal. Because a lot of the sci-fi stuff says, oh, people are cyborgs, but I don't know if our society would ever get to that point, because that, for that kind of stuff, you need a lot of resources. You need money. You need people to mine this stuff out. It could all be automated, but at least with the current way resource distribution on our planet is going, we're already starting to run out now.
Right.
Let alone, with crazy way more rare earth elements that are already very hard to find, hence the rare earth elements. But I can't really imagine, at least with the way we're going now, that we'd ever be able to get that far.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. And it sounds like Kelsey had a revelation over here. So did you have something you toss into?
So I got an idea from Emily. So I believe, like, in marketing in the future, like, nothing's going to be print. So the way you get your mail, the way you get your ads, the way that you get your sales, like, all that information is going to be somehow tied into the body, like what you're wearing. Like, it could be digitally, like, oh, like, let me walk while you're walking in Michael's. Oh, wow, this is on sale. Like, it will be, like, right there, like, somehow incorporated into your just life in general without being printed, without being, like, right in your face.
Yeah.
So even social media somehow won't even be like on a computer screen anymore. It will be somehow tied into like just your whole world.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. In stores nowadays, even you walk into a store, they can basically scan your face, recognize that you've been a repeat customer, and did different type of marketing with that.
Yeah, and like they can say, okay, well, this person. So Andrew walked into Giant Eagle, for instance. He is lactose, so let me give him a coupon that is lactose-free milk.
That'd be super nice, actually. Yeah, I'd love that. Cool. Okay, thank you. You guys have been awesome. I have one final question to offer you. And I know I talked to Emily before this. She's super into the controversy of this next question. So, of course, I had to ask it before I let you all go. So, I'll start with you. Actually, no, we're not going to start with you. We're going to start with Joe first, just to get the pot stirred up a little bit. So, with the advancements in, like, biology, chemistry, and all of that, humans are becoming editable. So, with that, you can basically go in, gene edit, you can make designer babies. What do you think that looks like kind of in your field or in the future in general?
Well, I don't have any clue what it'd look like in my field as an EMT. I don't think we have any control over that. But maybe as PA, you still probably wouldn't have the clearance or, the authority. That would probably be more of a doctor's decisions and
regulations,
decisions. But I think people really freak out about it and think that, oh God, this is going to be the next horrible thing, but that's essentially, editing the children to have the traits you want is eugenics in a more advanced form. Right. And right before, during the 1930s and 40s, that was a huge thing. Eugenics was like the next big thing, and at that time they were really thinking like, we're seeing a lot of these new health conditions pop up. People are more unhealthy. If we just have the people that are healthy have babies, then we could have a whole society of very healthy individuals. But as you probably know, that led to the Nazi Party taking it to the extreme, and concentration camps and a lot of stuff that polluted it. And after World War II and much of the advanced world was kind of in ruins, they were like, yeah, that's probably not a very good idea. Why don't we shouldn't do this. So I think that it's a really neat idea, but I think it's kind of going to go through the same process, not necessarily World War.
Okay.
I think people are going to be like, it's a cool idea. We could totally use this to prevent some horrible diseases and mutations, but as far as mass editing of the population, I think it's going to be the same process of, we could, but we probably shouldn't do that.
Okay, cool. Emily, I know you have a very strong opinion on this as well, so what is your input? Yeah, drop it in. What you got?
I can't stand this whole entire thing with editing the genes and, oh, hey, we're going to take this, we're going to take that. Your baby's supposed to have brown eyes, but no, I want a blue-eyed, blonde-haired kid. Okay, well, you know what? Sorry, that's not what happens. And that's when you get into the whole, is technology overcrossing the boundaries, especially when it comes to, religion?
Right.
And I'm a very religious person, so, being in the science field is a lot of controversy with religion to begin with. So something like all these genome projects and all that stuff is literally just so I don't know, it's so nerve-wracking because there's only so much that technology should really get involved with when it comes to interceding on natural processes. Okay,
right.
No.
What about for diseases?
God
It's a tough one.
for a reason.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if you guys could hear Kelsey, but everything happens for a reason. God has a plan set, and
there's a reason why he made Andrew the way he did.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, exactly right.
Exactly. I wouldn't be the same person I am today if my parents were like, hey, you know what? We actually don't want this one gene. That can change,
Change a lot.
everything.
Yep.
And it's ridiculous to me to think that somebody even wants their baby to come out of a test tube.
What about with Down syndrome? How do you think that would work?
They still
You
make
know
the
what?
world a beautiful place.
Exactly. I
Okay.
love
Yeah,
people that
interesting.
have Down syndrome. There is nothing wrong with them. I don't know why it's such a negative perception in our society. Yeah, sure, you have a chromosomal problem, but you're still an incredible human being. I don't know.
They bring joy to people's lives.
Exactly. There's no reason to dig into somebody's DNA and say, hey, this might be a gene for, this one issue. Let's try and get rid of it. Why? You might have that gene, you might not have that gene. You really never know until the baby is born and maybe 20, 30, 40 years into their life. So it's kind of stupid to me.
Cool, I appreciate that.
Not
Awesome.
kind of, ridiculously stupid.
Just for the record, the Human Genome Project is not just to make gene editing possible.
Yes,
There's a
true.
lot of
Just to get a better understanding of the human, how it works, all that
Although,
as well.
yeah,
my quick question
Yeah.
is
Drop it in, baby.
is say using gene editing to prevent a disease before it happens any different than using our very modern medical technology to cure it once it's happened? Say prevent a certain kind of cancer before you have to treat it?
But there's nothing proving that works yet. The thing is, all of this technology is so new that there is no way you can look 60, 70, 80 years into somebody's life and say, hey, you know what? We prevented cancer. Because nobody that has used this project or whatever has lived to be that old because it's such a new project. So, until we're 100 years past today, I don't know.
Obviously it's all hypothetical. We're talking
Exactly.
about, but
Yeah.
So what I'm kind of trying to get at is you guys were saying that it's going against the natural processes of God's decisions, but are a lot of our choices now that much different because we're already interfering with the natural processes with modern medical technology? Like the people who would not normally
That's a good point.
reproduce are reproducing. Therefore, a lot of these genetic traits that before we had this good medical technology, they would die. Well, now they're having kids, so these traits are being passed on and on and on.
That's true.
Any rebuttal? If not, that's okay.
I mean, like cancer and disease is a horrible thing. Like, don't get me wrong, and I hate to see anybody go through it. But there's also can you imagine if we just cured all diseases? How many people would be on this earth? Like, how much more chaos would that be? How many people would that put?
Issues,
how many people would that put out of work? Which is a horrible way to look at it, but that's just thinking both sides. It's a disgusting thing to go
There's
through.
effects either way.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, all of you, thank you very much. I appreciate your input,
No
your
problem.
wonderful debate, and thank you for helping me get an A on this project. You are the best.
Yeah, we got you past 30
All right.
minutes.
Thanks, guys. Good luck with everything.
Go have some
Thanks. Good
time.
luck to you too.